They thought fire would silence me. But before this story is over, you'll see how the man who tried to burn my son alive ended up exposing the kind of power that destroys itself. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't confusion. I watched flames crawl up the side of my SUV while my boy screamed from the front seat. His hands slammed against the glass, over and over. His eyes were wide with a kind of fear no child should ever learn. And the man who did it? He didn't run. He didn't panic. He stood there calmly, holding a red gas can like it was just another tool in his workday. Black vest, bold white letters across his chest. HOA Cop. No badge, no sirens, just a cold stare. "You should have followed the rules," he said. That's when my body moved before my mind caught up. I dropped everything and ran. Before we go any further, tell me where you're watching from. I want to know how far this story travels. Because to understand why an HOA enforcer would try to burn a child alive in a quiet suburban neighborhood, you need the backstory. My name is Marcus Hale. I'm a professional boxer. Not famous, not flashy, just disciplined. Dangerous when I need to be, and very good at controlling my hands. Fighting paid for that house. Fighting paid for my son's school. Fighting kept food on the table after his mother passed. I didn't move into that neighborhood to intimidate anyone. I moved in because I wanted stability. The HOA hated that from day one. They didn't like the way I looked. Didn't like the heavy bag in my garage. Didn't like that I didn't smile or wave or play friendly. And they really didn't like my son. He was quiet, kept to himself, rode his bike alone, asked questions adults didn't like answering. That's when the HOA cop, Evan Krill, started paying attention. "Kids shouldn't wander," he'd say. "Kids need supervision," he'd add, staring a second too long. I complained. The HOA brushed it off. They said Evan was just enforcing safety. They said I was being aggressive. Then the fines started. Noise violations when I wasn't home, parking violations for a car in my own driveway, warnings about non-compliant residents. I paid every single one until the last notice arrived. Final violation, removal required. I refused. 2 days later, I came home to smoke and my son trapped inside a burning car. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about rules. This wasn't about fines. This was about power. And a man who thought he could use my child to prove he had it. He was wrong. And the fire was only the beginning. I don't remember opening the door. I remember heat. The kind that punches the air out of your lungs. The kind that turns every thought into one command: get him out. I ripped the driver's door open with my bare hands. The handle burned my skin. It screamed, but I barely felt it. My son was coughing, crying, trying to curl away from the smoke. The seatbelt was jammed. "Dad!" he choked. "I've got you," I said, but my voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. I tore the belt loose, dragged him out, collapsed onto the driveway with him locked against my chest. Behind us, the car roared. Glass popped, paint blistered. My boy shook so hard his teeth rattled. Red streaks ran down his arms. His hair smelled like smoke and melted plastic. But he was alive. That was all that mattered. Everything else went dark. Not around me, inside me. And standing just beyond the flames, watching in silence, was the same man who lit the fire, already reaching for something that told me this nightmare wasn't over yet. Why didn't I stop, even when he started begging me to calm down? It was like someone flipped a switch inside me, the part that measures distance, the part that weighs consequences. Gone. The world shrank to sound and motion, and one shape standing a few steps away. The HOA cop. He was still holding the gas can, still talking. His mouth kept moving, spilling words about violations and orders. And you brought this on yourself. I didn't hear a single word. I stood up. My vision tunneled. My hands felt heavy, electric, like they didn't belong to me anymore. I took one step toward him, then another. That's when he finally saw my face. He took a half step back. "Hey, calm down," he said, his voice cracking. "This is an HOA matter." I punched him. The first hit landed clean, snapped his head sideways, dropped him where he stood. He slammed into the concrete. The gas can skidded across the driveway, fuel sloshing out, feeding the fire still roaring behind us. He tried to get up. I didn't let him. I grabbed his vest and hauled him halfway up, then drove my fist into his jaw. I felt it give, heard the crack. His scream died halfway through, turning wet, broken. My body shifted on instinct, feet planted, balance centered. One shot to the ribs, then another. His body folded, air ripped out of him in ragged gasps. He clawed at my arm once, missed, tried again, weak this time. Then he stopped fighting. I didn't stop punching. Every strike carried one thought: my son. Every impact felt like erasing another second of terror burned into my kid's memory. Hands grabbed my shoulders. "Marcus, stop!" Someone yanked at my arm. Another voice shouted my name. Neighbors, faces blurred, panicked. They rushed in, trying to pull me off a man who was already unconscious on the pavement. "Enough! He's down!" I didn't even realize I was screaming until my throat burned. "My son!" I shouted. "He tried to burn my son!" Someone finally shoved themselves between us. I staggered back. My chest heaved. My hands shook, not with rage now, but the crash after it. I turned and dropped to my knees beside my boy. He clung to me instantly, sobbing into my shoulder, fingers digging into my shirt like he was afraid I'd vanish. Behind us, the fire roared. In front of us, the HOA cop lay broken and still. A neighbor's voice cut through the noise. "I'm calling 911. Another voice followed. "Get an ambulance." I looked down at my son, alive, shaking, breathing, then back at the burning car, the unconscious man, the crowd closing in. This wasn't an HOA issue anymore. This was a line crossed in fire and fear, where rules stopped mattering, and the only thing left was a father who would do anything to protect his child, no matter the cost. If this story has you locked in, hit like and subscribe, because what happens next changes everything. The sirens came fast, so fast the neighbors stepped back, like they suddenly realized they were standing inside a crime scene. Fire trucks first, then police, then paramedics. They moved straight past me and my son and went directly to the man on the ground, the HOA cop. They cut his vest open, rolled him carefully, and that's when I realized I wasn't the one they were worried about. What the medics said next would quietly seal everyone's fate long before a judge ever did. One of them swore under his breath when he saw the man's chest rise unevenly. "Multiple fractures," a medic muttered. "Jaws shattered, ribs crushed, possible internal bleeding." Another shook his head. They worked fast. No panic, no sympathy. Oxygen, IV, hands moving with urgency as they loaded him into the ambulance. The sirens screamed again as they pulled away. Someone draped a blanket around my son. Someone else finally took my burned hands and wrapped them. I barely noticed. All I could see was my boy, alive, breathing, still gripping my shirt like the world might take me if he let go. An officer knelt in front of me. "Sir," he said calmly, "I need you to tell me exactly what happened." I didn't exaggerate. I didn't raise my voice. I told him everything. The fines, the threats, the gas can, the fire. My son is screaming inside that car. Every word I said matched what was already spreading across half a dozen phones in the crowd. They separated us, gently. Separated my son, gently. They treated us like victims because that's exactly what we were. Hours later, while my boy slept in a hospital bed with oxygen taped under his nose, I got the update. The HOA cop was still unconscious. Doctors called it a coma. Severe brain injury, collapsed lung, crushed ribs, shattered jaw. 3 weeks passed. He never woke up. And because he never woke up, he never spoke. No confession, no excuses, no story to save anyone. The HOA president, Karen Whitmore, didn't wait long. She went on record denying everything, said the man acted alone, claimed he had no authority, called the fire an unfortunate accident. She even tried to turn it on me, said I was aggressive, unstable, a danger to the community. That story lasted exactly 4 days, because when investigators searched the HOA cop's house, they found everything. Text messages, emails, printed violation notices, recorded phone calls, orders from Karen herself, threats about making an example, instructions on forcing compliance, photos of my house, photos of my son, and one final message sent just hours before the fire: if he doesn't comply today, escalate. That was the end. Karen was arrested that same night. Conspiracy, attempted murder, arson, child endangerment. More charges followed every week as the investigation peeled the HOA apart piece by piece. As for the HOA cop, doctors said if he ever wakes up, he'll never be the same. Legally, it doesn't matter. His charges are already waiting. Attempted murder of a minor, aggravated arson, felony assault, terroristic threats, life in prison. Whether he opens his eyes tomorrow or never does. And my son? He still flinches at fire, still wakes from nightmares some nights, but he's alive. And every night when I tuck him in, he wraps his arms around my neck and whispers the same words. "You saved me, Dad." Always, I tell him. Always. And that's how a fake HOA cop learned the hardest lesson of all. You don't use power to terrorize a child. You don't weaponize rules against a family. And you never try to burn a father's son alive and expect to walk away. Not ever. So what do you think? Did I do the right thing? Or did I just do what any father would have done? What would you have done? I want to know. Subscribe to follow the moments when borrowed power finally breaks and the truth has nowhere left to hide. Then like the video if that ending stayed with you longer than the fire itself. And tell me in the comments, was this justice taking its stand? Or the price every parent would pay when the rules stop protecting what matters most?